listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome everyone. Today I'm joined with my beautiful friend, Mollymae. She specializes in multiple healing modalities such as energy healing and readings, home clearing, herbal blends, and intuitive development. She also offers a coaching program called Rainbow Alchemy and works with Beyond Quantum Healing, which allows individuals to see their past lives and connect with the higher self. She also leads various types of circles and events. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes.
I'm super grateful that you wanted to have me on your podcast. You're such a great friend, and I'm stoked. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, of course.
Doing this with me. I know our listeners have kind of heard me talk about you, so they're probably ready to finally get to know you a little.
I'm stoked to give them all the information that they need to know about BQH and all the things that we're going to talk about. I can't wait to dive in.
Awesome. So could you share with us a little background about yourself and your journey into learning some of these different healing modalities?
Totally. So I started when I was really young. I started in high school, actually. I was about 16 when I got into tarot. Actually, I think I might have been 15. And that whole journey was so impactful because as I was learning the archetypes of the cards, I started to really see them in myself as I was growing up. And so they kind of just became a form of communication for me that has since just kept developing. I had really insane dreams about my purpose when I was really young. Even my mom knew from a really young age that I was super empathic. I didn't have the words for it though, and I tell my clients this all the time. It's hilarious that I would go to these dinner parties and I would go around to people, and one day I asked my mom a question. I was like, why do you know what it's called when you just know things about people? And we literally had this conversation. And so I used to call it the pinprick effect because I used to have to touch people to do it. But I would give adults like real information about their lives. And so it's kind of been like my whole life, you know, and over time it just like developed. But when I got to about 20, actually even before that, 18, I went into massage school, and then I realized that wasn't for me either. And I went through the whole thing, and then I was like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be working with the mind and the body and kind of connecting in both of those parts together. So yeah, it's a really beautiful journey, and it just keeps developing over time. And I'm always learning new things. That's kind of my core belief, is that forever learning. I'm always learning something new. I'm never going to be like, I'm an expert in this. Even if I do it really well, I'm never an expert. I'm always learning new techniques. And yeah, so I got my Reiki certification after I learned tarot. I've been practicing tarot for, I don't even know how long. It's been so long. And then I moved into Reiki, then moved into past life regression, then did akashic records, and then hypnotherapy, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Right.
And then also just developing my own personal practice has had the biggest impact. I like to really sit with all the things that I learn and integrate them before I like go into anything else. But yeah, it's been quite an amazing journey.
Right, yeah. It's really cool to watch you grow. And, you know, I feel like every time I check in, it's like you're learning some new thing or teaching some new thing or just trying out some group energies. And it's really cool to see you just, you know, have fun with it too. You always seem like you're enjoying yourself. Like, it's not like, oh God, you know, got to do this intuition circle or what. Like, you actually love it, and you can tell, like, it radiates, you know, so.
Yeah, I had somebody come up to me a little while ago, and they gave me this necklace, and it was so impactful to me at the time. I was going into a ceremony actually, and they gave me a like hand hammered necklace that said illuminate. And I just completely resonate with that word. I love words. That's like a big thing for me that I study all the time. Is I love etymology. I think it's fascinating how we communicate as human beings.
Right. Yes, me too. I'm always like looking up like name meanings, and because there's like so much beyond just the word itself. There's like the history, and then if you like cut it up into all the syllables, and each thing has its own vibration. I'm the same way. It is a really cool thing to study. Yeah. So, what types of energy work and readings do you specialize in?
I really specialize in communication. So, like channeling or chanting and singing and connecting in. Even when I do my Reiki sessions, like I always take my clients through some kind of meditation so that I can really get to that depth of where, kind of where hypnosis comes up and you're in a new space of connecting with yourself. Like your subconscious is more present, your conscious mind is taking a little bit of the background. But yeah, definitely like channeling is a big thing. And I use the akashic records like kind of all the time now. It's just something that just comes up. I especially for my clients, I actually do my akashic records ahead of time so I can kind of like tap into what's going on. And so then as they speak to me, it's like, oh, that's what that was about. And I can give that whole message. Not always all the time, but sometimes I flow with every session. Sometimes I'll use cards, sometimes I won't. But I like to keep it very open. It's just like a reading, and
Right.
of the energy that's present currently, which is, it's really magical to just see how we're all so different. And I think that's why I like to make sure that all of my sessions are customized to that particular person for those particular needs, because I have studied a lot. And so I can shift around and play with different things. So yeah.
Right. And you have that good intuition where you can say, well, this is what this person needs in this moment. This is what.
Yeah, because it could be different next week.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I really love the singing, which I kind of forgot about it until you just said singing. But I swear, so like the bowls and then your voice, like it was, I don't know, definitely like made me feel like I was in a completely different place, like than the room I was in. And I guess I haven't played with the sound healing as much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that always happens, but it was like teleportive for me. And then I went back and like re-listened to the recording, and it happened. It was just as potent. And I wasn't thinking it would be, because I was like, okay, it must have been, like in the moment. But the recording was very powerful as well. So it's like something I have with me forever now.
I love that. It makes me so happy because they're always so different. I literally, like, I never listened to that part because it's like, it's not for me.
Right.
It's not for me to go into, but it's so magical when I hear people say that, because I love being able to teleport people with my voice.
Yes, it's really
so
emotional.
cool.
Like, I don't know what you were saying, but like it made me want to cry both times. So in person and then with the recording also.
Oh, that's so cool. I love hearing people tell me about that, because, sometimes like not all the time, but my conscious mind will come in and it'll start to chatter, and I'm like, no, I know this works. Like,
right.
I know this is potent. And so it's just like more validation that it's so magical, and it just happened. It wasn't something I studied necessarily. It was, light language I totally did, but I didn't study like how to make that frequency. It's just I was in meditation myself, and I just started doing it.
Right.
And I was like, I just went to a different planet.
Right. Yeah, it's like beyond, I don't know, like time and space or something. It's like it's like the sound itself is its own dimension, which I never kind of separated it like that, because you always want to kind of like group the senses together. But just the sound is its own wavelength by itself. It's like there's so much there. that I had never considered really. So
When you tap into that space, it just, because you can't be conscious. You can't, and then all you can do is feel it. And I love watching people light up. I love watching people move with it. Like, I've seen so many amazing things happen from that, and it's so magical. I love starting my intuition circles that way too. It's so fun. So fun.
yeah, I really want to go to one of those. I just like have not had the time. I don't know. It's gonna happen one day.
I always tell people, like, whenever somebody will come up to me and tell me, like, I really want to come to this, I'm like, look, it's going to align at the most amazing time with the most amazing people that need to give you the messages that you need, and vice versa. And I love doing that. Like, it's, and then it's just like this release. So when you feel the call, like, you'll be there, you know, you'll just show up and be there. Sometimes I've had like random people that didn't even know the event was happening that just walked in, and they're like, I'm supposed to be here. And I'm like, oh, like, thank you so much for wanting to like share your gifts, you know, like that's what it's all about, is sharing your gifts.
And like, I feel like for some people it's like finding them, like they didn't maybe they didn't even know.
Yeah, you know? And me telling people that it's okay, you know, like I get this phrase constantly, like, you're gonna think I'm crazy, and I'm like, no, I'm probably not. I'm probably going to be like, this is something I hear about all the time.
Right.
But it's fun to be able to work with people like that. It's amazing to show them it's okay to express their gifts. So magical.
Right. So when we do the intuition circles, is that once a month or?
Yeah, I kind of like, I always tell this to my clients too. I always flow with my time, because that's something that if I'm not going to be in the best space to show up the way I need to, then I'm not going to show up. And I'm very transparent about that, because I want other people to possibly take something from that too. It's like, you know, if you're not in a good space, don't be there. You know, just sit with it. So I kind of, most of the time it's once a month. But like this month I had too much going on, and I was like, there's no way that I can make this happen. But it's happening in February for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so people just gather in a circle. What's it kind of like to give people a visual, I guess.
So you come in
And this is at Alchemy now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You come in, and this is we have our little cool backspace. It's actually called the Harmony Room. And we have all these pretty lights. It's gorgeous. Just to be back there. I got to hold my first circle back there after we were done painting, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. But yeah, so you come in, and I'll start with kind of talking about the different types of intuition. Sometimes I'll go deeper. Every time it's really different on what I'm going into, because I want to make sure that I'm like, again, I'm customizing it to the energy of the space, because it's always different. And I always channel beforehand to kind of figure out like, okay, that's the main thing that needs to be talked about, or do I need to explain something a little bit deeper than I normally would? And yeah, so then we'll come and we'll sit in a circle, and every single person will either have like a pad of paper or whatever they like to do intuitively. And we go in a circle, and we'll start with like the first person. So they'll either ask a question or just leave it open. I normally have an example so people aren't like, whoa, right. This is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And so they'll get their reading from everybody else in the group. And then I'm always the final person, so I can make sure that I can wrap up all the energies. So, which is really fun, because a lot of people will come in and tell this in my intuition circles, that you can ask your guides, the angels, the ascended masters, whoever you speak to or communicate with spiritually, for a number, a color, and everything. So if people are new and they're just coming in and they just see the colors, then I can kind of come back and like interpret that for them. So it's a magical space. There's always such magical people that show up. It's always like, even last time, it was so magical. We had 4 people that were pretty much going through the same things, and were giving each other similar messages, but it was so open, it was so free, it was so full of ease and flow, and such a dynamic way of like connecting with people that nobody knew each other.
Right.
And they just showed up and they were all there. And that was such a great circle. I had so much fun with it.
I bet that's so cool for you because you are like guiding it, but you're like also like you don't know. Like you're still experiencing it just like everybody else.
Totally. It's so funny because I always tell people, like, and some people are very like resistant to reading me, which I find hilarious because I'm super open about everything. And some people won't read me. Like, I'm like, look, you can if you want to, you know, I'm totally open to hearing your messages. But if you don't want to, like, you don't need to.
Right.
But it's amazing to watch people because I've gotten so much from them. So something that I do actually after every circle is I do a lot of automatic writing and stuff in those circles. And I'll keep a little sheet of everything anybody's told me throughout that, and I'll put it on my fridge. And so for the next month, I'll look at it and be like, oh my gosh, that came up. That's amazing. And it just makes me feel such a deep connection to the community that comes to those circles because they really do. Like, we all have this gift. Like, we all are intuitive. And, you know, it's the choice on whether we want to foster that and really bring that into its fullest capacity. But yeah,
I really love that you're creating this like safe space for people to play with it because I think some people do kind of doubt themselves or they're like they're kind of nervous to like even open that channel because they're like, oh God, I don't want to just start getting messages, you know. So I think it's really beautiful, and I had never heard anything like that. Like, you're the only person I've ever known that does that. But I'm just like, what a beautiful opportunity that you give the people to just play with off of it. Like, okay, well, you know, this name came in my head. What does that mean anything to you? Because it's kind of hard to trust the intuition without getting feedback sometimes. So you're like, okay, is this my trauma talking? Am I making this up? Was this some movie I watched last year? Like, where is this coming from? But I feel like when everyone's doing it and like someone's doing it for you and you're like, okay, well, you know, someone like asked me the other day, they're like, do you know Deborah? Because like they had channeled this woman named Deborah, and I was like, no, but I like looked it up and it meant like bees, and then like all this stuff on bees kept coming up like for like the rest of the day. I was like, okay, I guess somehow I was connecting to the hive mind and it came out as the name Deborah.
That's amazing.
But it's so, like, it is weird, you know, because you're like, I have no clue what this means right now. But so it almost, like, takes time sometimes to fully even process it. But it's super cool that you just do this group and let everyone just play with it. And it's, like, lighthearted. Yeah. And so it's like, well, what if it doesn't mean anything? It doesn't matter, right? It's just practice.
Yeah. And actually what's so funny about when you said that you didn't know anybody that does it. So the reason why I do it is because I went to an intuition circle. And in that intuition circle, every single person told me that I need to do one.
Oh, wow.
And this was in a completely different state. Like, and nobody knew me, like, at all. Only the person that took me.
Wow.
And they were all like, yeah, you need to do this work. Like, this is part of you. And I was like, whoa, okay. And then I worked with it for a while, and I worked with some of the people that I go to for sessions and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to do this. Like, this is a part of me. And they all kept validating it. And then it just developed into something completely different than that circle, but into just a reflection of my own intuitive journey, which is so cool to be able to give that to other people too and watch them. It's so amazing sometimes, you mentioned this too, was about validation. Sometimes I challenge people to not need to be validated in that. And what is so impactful is when you receive validation no matter what. Right. Because the energy that a person's giving off from their reading is from other people. You can see like the sparkle in their eye or just the like small little changes of breath, and those micro expressions are totally a form of validation too. And so that's why I challenge people to just like stop, wait a minute, and then we can talk about it at the end. You can go form a relationship with that person and connect with them on a deep level. I've had so many people make friends there that like they still hang out with now, and I'm like, I love being able to connect people with the right matches for them. It's so
Oh,
cool.
wow. That's such a cool thing. I'm very just like happy to experience that. That's just so
Yeah,
fun.
it's so cool.
Let's see here. Could you explain what Beyond Quantum Healing is and what a session looks like? How does past life regression come into play?
Totally. So, BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing, is a modality that is pretty much free form. So, it was developed by Candace Goldman Shaw, who is an incredible, amazing person. She was Dolores Cannon's assistant, and so she decided to make her own form of QHHT, but instead it's more open. So the reason why they do it is because you can do it online, you can mix modalities, and in QHHT that's not really a thing that is in the guidelines of QHHT. Not to say that people don't do it,
Right.
but it's just not exactly like in that realm. So yeah, and with past life regression, it's sort of like comes into play when that's the whole session, really. They give you like a blueprint when you're going through the training, just to kind of work off of, but then it's like your opportunity to sit with and change it and integrate it into you, which totally impacted me forever just because of how amazing that is. So I started doing it about 3 years ago. And honestly, I don't know how many sessions I've had. But it's a modality that you can really work on anything. And it's so hard for me. I tell this to people all the time, but it's so hard for me to market it. I'm like, how do I market something that I know can literally like help anyone, like anyone that comes in? I'm like, okay, like what did I'm just the guide. Like I get
Right.
to guide the experience. But it's so much fun to watch where people go. So what a session essentially looks like is we'll have like a little conversation ahead of time where we'll talk about like what your goals are, what your needs are, what you want to do, and then we'll kind of just wait a while. I'll give you a list of things that you kind of need to prepare for. I try to plan like pretty heavily in advance so that we can really integrate like, okay, we're going into this session and I'll keep up with you and ask you like, hey, how's it going? Like, all that kind of stuff. And then once we come to the actual session day, we connect with just the consultation-y part of it kind of again. And so I will literally ask you about almost every single aspect of your life, starting with childhood, moving forward. And then we'll kind of have like a coaching session almost. So if I know that I can help with something that you may need, I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. And then, but mostly I'm just there to like hold space and talk with you about what you're wanting to bring in. And we'll also talk about what you want to call into your life, like manifesting into your reality, because the brainwave state of theta is the best brainwave state to manifest in. And you can totally get there yourself. But it's even more amazing when you can have somebody that's there and helping you. I know that when I got sessions, I'm watching my life change from just those hours of sessions. So impactful. So after we go through the consultation, we'll kind of just dive right in. We do a little meditation and then we go into the induction. In the session, we'll either go to 1 or 3 past lives depending on time. My sessions run very long most of the time. And then we'll do the manifestation portion. We'll do light language. Sometimes I'll even do a healing portion, just depending on what's going on. And then we talk to the higher self. And that's kind of the preparation for ahead of time, is being able to candidly speak to the higher self, Gosh, I get so emotional when I think about it because I just like, I know how amazing I've seen it, I've seen, like, I know I have personal relationships with most of my clients, so I see them and I see what they're doing and, like things that they'll put out there with me. It's so amazing just to watch people work on and live the things that we worked on in the session.
Right. And like you can actually, because you're friends with a lot of them, watch it play out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't really know what they're going to do with that energy.
Totally. And like I have sessions, like I do online sessions too. So it's kind of like all over, I have strangely enough, I have a big like amount of sessions in Russia, which I only, it just came about that way. I don't know why, but it just happened. And then they just talk to each other, and that's how it flows. I've had clients in Australia and Mexico, Canada, even some places in Europe too, which is so amazing to just find these people that want to connect in that way. And a lot of people ask this question, how do like online sessions react with the energy? And as long as everything in your house is quiet and you feel called to like really go inward, there's not a change at all. And I was worried about it too when I started. I was like, is this going to change anything? And it really doesn't. Like I actually did it all throughout like COVID and everything, and like in the peak of it, and I had more sessions like online, which was amazing because I got to interact with that energy more and people all over the world, which was so cool.
Right. I'm glad you can do that because we have listeners in 25 countries.
Oh,
and
I
I'm
love
always
that.
excited to have people on the show that do distance work so that they can still interact, even though everyone on the show is based out of Knoxville.
Yeah.
But they're like, people in like Beijing and stuff are listed.
Yeah.
So it's really
hey
cool.
guys.
So yeah, I'm still like processing my session with you. Like it's so weird how it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And like things that I might have been like, well, that's weird. But then like I'll read a book and I'll be like, oh my God. Like the Lemuria stuff. Okay. I had, casually read about Lemuria and like Atlantis and stuff, but I had never thought anything about it. Obviously it's really cool. But I wasn't thinking I was from there or that I was going to go there. But, okay, after our session, people started finding me and they'd be like, are you from Lemuria? And I was like, that's really weird that you just, like 5 days after our session, a girl I'd never met messaged me on Facebook and asked me about Lemuria. And I was like, if you had asked me 5 days ago what my feelings were on this, my answer would have been really different. So I was like when I connected to that part of my past, it was like it had connected across the board with like other people.
Yes.
And like they started finding me and I was like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
Like how this is unfolding because I just wasn't prepared for it, you know? So it's like something that's continuing.
It's never going to stop. Like, and I mean that because I go through it.
Right.
So my first session, like that I got for me, oh my gosh, like I can still go back and listen to the recordings and listen to notes or read notes and everything. And I get so much from it and it just keeps unfolding. And I've had probably like 6 sessions for myself. So I could really go into all of these different parts and pieces so I could be a better practitioner. And wow, I mean, like I can still go back to one of my favorite lifetimes that I had was I went off planet and I got to read my akashic records off planet. Like,
wow.
And my whole book, like I went through everything. I think my session was about 8 hours.
Wow.
And I could not drive home.
Right. It's really tiring.
Yeah, it is. It's very tiring. And that's why I give people kind of like a list of grounding and self-care stuff so they can do afterwards it's like hug a tree and take a bath.
Right.
Like you need to like instantly go hug a tree, like any tree that you can find. Like you stop your car and go hug a tree and eat way more than you think you need to.
Right, yes, because food is definitely like grounding for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was really surprised like with the first life I went to, because it was so like not tangible. Like I don't think I would have ever found it because it was in such a weird place.
Yeah.
That like I still feel like almost, I don't know, like, because first off, they wouldn't even tell us the name of it. But
They
like
do that a lot.
getting sucked in through it was like this jello. And like it was like I could feel it, and then I
Yeah.
could really like hear things and touch things, but it was just this underwater world where things morphed and got big and small and all this. But this is weird, okay, because we found out that I'd made elixirs in that life or whatever. Well, like last week, I was reading this book and I kept thinking, like, what was I making? Because they said that I would be able to continue to make these elixirs. And I was like,
yeah, I do remember
what does that mean? And so I've been kind of like, it's just been in the back of my mind. I'm like, what does that mean? How do I figure out how to make these things? Well, I was reading this book on astrology, and it's like about the soul and all this. And it was talking about like alchemy and like the elixirs aren't always like a formula, that it's something within. Like that the alchemy comes from within.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, that's probably what it is. It's like I've already been doing it.
Yeah. Your elixir is like the medicine that you're already carrying.
Right. And I've been thinking, oh, I'm going to have to like tap into this and relearn this.
Yeah, you already know it.
They even said it's like you still have this. This was one of the messages she was going to give me. Like my mother in that life was giving me the message of you always carry this ability. But I'm like, I guess I'm going to start studying herbalism or something. Like I don't know how to tap back into that.
Oh, I love
But
that.
like I had just brought it up to someone like a week before, and then I read it in the book, and my husband was just like, probably thinks I'm crazy because I was like, oh my God, like, and I like read this whole like chapter out loud, and he was just like, okay. But it meant so much to me because it was like that validation, but it answered my question, of like, because I was seeking an answer. So it's like ongoing, and it's still like, I'm sure I'll stumble on something, in the future, especially because we're talking about it. So now it's going to probably come back up even more intensely. But
all the time. Like, and it's so amazing when I get messages from people from past sessions, because it's always like that week after that, like integration time of like, what is this? Like, how do I ground this? Because it's so much, because you get so much out of it. And it's every single session. You get so much.
I know.
And then you're coming into this space where you're like, oh. And then you have all these epiphanies, and I get all these epiphany messages, which I love. I love hearing people that I got to guide them into that place of where they could feel like they can access that stuff. And like, that's why, and it's a big saying throughout BQH, is like, you already have all the answers you seek.
Right.
You have them. They're there.
Uh-huh.
But having somebody tell you that it's okay, that you can sink into that place and you're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. You know, that's, it's so magical to watch people. Because I see people go into hypnosis because there's body cues. And it's like instant relaxation.
Right.
Instant, like, I'm free. Opening up your heart space. It's magic.
Yeah, I've tried to do and I've successfully done some past life regression with like YouTube videos.
Yeah, definitely.
But I am a little more weary because I don't necessarily know the person. So like when I first leave, like I almost feel like I'm having a heart attack. Like when I first like come out of body and I'm like, oh my God, where are they going to take me?
Yeah.
So I felt like with you, I was like, I trust her, I've known her for a while. We've talked beforehand. Like, she's not going to take me somewhere, because it's like, I'm really trusting myself that I wouldn't go somewhere I wasn't ready.
Definitely.
To see. But yeah, you definitely like made me feel safe and grounded throughout the process. So it was really nice. And then just like the questions, right? Can be like anything. That's what's so cool about it is like.
Some people though, that's like a big thing. Like, they're like, anything. What? Like, and I'm like, no, I really mean like anything you want to know. Like, you can ask your higher self. Your higher self is literally there to answer your questions.
Right. It was a really cool experience, especially because I asked all about like starseed stuff, which it's it's kind of out there, so you're always like, what is this? Like, am I making this up? But then, like, when you start hearing yourself talking about it, you're like, it's so natural.
Yeah.
And it, like, kind of takes the weirdness out of it because it's coming from you.
Yes, totally.
So it's not some other person channeling. It's like, no, these
Mm-hmm.
people are talking to me,
Yeah.
So.
This is for you. This is your gift to share. And I did the same thing in one of my sessions. I was just like, all right, I'm going to ask all the outlandish questions that maybe nobody's asked before, because that's what I think about a lot with the higher self. I'm like, okay, just as the higher self here, with your own personal body, but also the higher self as like a whole, the collective higher
Right.
self. Like, has anybody asked this question before,
Right.
So I went into my own personal kind of stuff that has come up. And then also I went really deeply into all the starseed lineages and everything. And it was interesting because from that session, I found out that like the Arcturians, they gave me this message, and I will literally never forget this, but they said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll know." And I was like,
Right.
"Okay, what do you mean?" And then they came to me afterward, after my session. I met somebody who practiced Arcturian based healing. And I was like, interesting. And we ended up becoming like really amazing friends. Like, she sends me books like all the time. She lives in a different state too. We connected through Instagram. And it was so magical. And yeah, she started doing these Arcturian based healings on me, and I found out that I'm very much like connected to the Arcturians, and it makes a lot of sense for who I am as a person.
Right.
And yeah, but I wouldn't have, I possibly wouldn't have known that I had such a deep connection without that session, feeling safe enough to know that, like, okay, well, something's going to come up about this, and just releasing it, that's what's so amazing is like, you do all this work and then you kind of like forget about it, and then you
Yes.
have these epiphanies afterwards, and
Yes.
you're like, whoa, like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I noticed that I've been reading the book, The Prism of Lyra, and like I asked a lot about the different, lineages and stuff, and like as I'm reading the book, I'm like, this is literally what we said. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I wasn't making it up, because how the heck would I have known this?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Totally. I've had people and myself that have channeled stuff about history that I later like looked up because I was genuinely curious. I was like, and like even like more grounded stuff, I would look it up and find so much information. For me personally, I had a lifetime where I was in before Rome. The Roman Empire was actually like present, but it was kind of just starting. And I channeled this symbol, and this symbol has since followed me everywhere. And I learned that it's actually the solar cross. And I was like, I definitely did not know that existed. And it was, yeah, there's so much that comes up with,
Oh no.
I didn't know that. Like, my conscious mind did not know these things. And then I later found them. And then I found out I had a bell that had the solar cross on it. And I was like, what? Because this has been in my life the whole time, but I didn't know what it was. And
Right.
yeah, it's fascinating what people will come into. And it's fascinating to see how people interpret that space, because, sometimes it's very jarring. And I'll need to do a lot of like protective work, or sometimes it's like, we're just going into the light and airy, but sometimes it's deep, deep shadow work that we're diving so deeply into the subconscious, which is so cool.
Right.
I love being able to be there to just hold space for people. I mean, you can talk to lost loved ones. You can talk to people who, you haven't connected with. You can cut cords. You can do really anything. Like, and
Right.
I like work with the pain in your body. I've had a lot of people that come to me for that too, as just different type of dis-ease in the body. And I kind of work with them to create a new relationship with that pain, which is amazing. and then I have people tell me what happened afterwards, and I'm just mind blown every time. Like I'm so much in my higher self in that space that I forget, like how after I'm like just going out my normal life, I'll get these messages and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Like, that's
Right.
amazing. Like I'm so proud of people because like it's not me, it's just I'm the guide. I'm
Right.
helping you to get to that space. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. I felt like our session was perfectly timed, which you kind of heard about that with the intuition circle, but because I was just starting to think about the podcast. Like I hadn't fully even committed because I was so terrified to do it. The thought was so big. Like I was just like, I can't do a podcast. Like that's crazy. Like no one's gonna listen to me talk. Like I've been trying to like talk about this stuff my whole life, and people are like, okay. But when I got like that confirmation of like this is something that is like in your record, it was like it's already there. And like that I was just gonna shine, and like I was going to help people with it. It wasn't just some like ego thing of me just talking and whatever, that I was going to help people make the connections through the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. And all I'm doing is just being myself, which my records have always told me that there is no big thing for me, that it's just a frequency that I'm on, and I can literally just like walk around and I'm doing my purpose. So, but you always want to like think, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's this thing. So, all I do is just like, I'm myself. But it was the BQH that made me really trust it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, oh, well, if I'm already doing it in the future, then it must work out. So, I was like really thankful that I did the session. And then, I mean, I went on and now we're coasting right along. So, I feel like
Yeah.
it's good. It's like, so we think like past life regression, but there's also, it's like the future could come through.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. I have had sessions where I specifically put out that intention for myself. I never put that on other people unless they really want to. Of course, we can go into it. Because those intentions that we
Mm-hmm.
set in our ceremony in the beginning are so potent. And I take so much time for the wording, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure it's like absolutely exactly what you're looking for,
Right.
because communication.
Right. That's your
uh,
thing. Um, what's it like to be psychic, and how do you receive information?
oh, I love this. I love this question. It gets me so excited. Oh my goodness. Okay, so for me, I have a special space that I can channel into. It's almost like I can be here present with you, but I'm also like inside my body building. If I don't know how to explain that in a different way, but I essentially have a tower that sits right above my crown chakra, and I go into it and I can give out information. I can do all kinds of stuff. I actually found this through past life regression. I didn't know this existed, but then I looked into all of the etymology of the words, and I found so much from it, and it just keeps developing into bigger and bigger things. I actually teach people how to make one in my coaching program, which is amazing. But yeah, so I go into my tower space, and my guides always are there. They just meet me there. It can move all around the globe. I have all these different types of runners that go and do different energetic work kind of all over the planet, if I send them. And my guides, I have a really strong connection with rainbows,
Mm.
because my guides are colors. They embody
Oh.
themselves in colors. Recently, they've been merging into more of a white light frequency, which is really magical to watch them all integrate into like one. They don't
Right.
do it all the time. They sometimes still come to me separately, but they are all the spectrums of everything. And they align with so many spiritual techniques, tools, and everything. They all kind of have a different piece, which is amazing to just witness that. But I'll get information. I tell this to my intuition development clients, but it'll come through my crown, it'll integrate in my heart, and then it's like I just have to like spit it out of my mouth, and so it's just constantly like that flow of how it feels within my body. And then if it's like a deeper topic, a lot of times like they'll tell me to slow down by pushing it into my root and then having it come throughout my whole body. So or if it's something that I also need to hear when I'm giving it to a client, because oh my gosh, that happens all the time.
I bet.
And it'll come through. But I do automatic writing. To quote my dad, he always told me when I was a kid to use the tools that I have. And that's always what I work from, is like any tools that I have access to, I'm going to use them because I know them. So definitely like automatic writing is a big way that I connect in anything that's like communication. But really, I just connect into the heart space. Like when I'm looking at somebody eye to eye, I can feel their heart space. And yeah, it's magic to be able to just know the things that they need. And it's like every time I do anything, like now I can find that communication in different areas of my life too. And sometimes I'll just like channel for somebody I don't know,
Right.
and it's amazing to watch. Like I was saying about the intuition development, like seeing like the micro expressions in people. Like I don't really need the validation from cards anymore. I don't really use like a lot of cards anymore, just because I know that I've integrated that, I've integrated,
right.
but I love tarot. I think it's amazing, and I don't need to use it anymore. And they're just like, no, you got it.
Right,
Like,
you've got like direct access.
yeah, it's like, it's already in you. And sometimes I'll even talk about cards, like, and then it's so funny. Like I'll talk about cards and then I'll like randomly, like during that day at some point, I'll like pull that card and I'm like, yeah, I don't need it. Thanks, Tarot, for telling me that.
Exactly.
It's so amazing.
That's really cool. I feel like it's cool that you have such a good ability to communicate, because I like look around and I talk to a lot of people, and most people really struggle with communication.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like they're like afraid. I mean, I was there, okay?
Yeah.
Like I didn't
So
speak
was
for like
I,
years
for
when I was
sure.
a kid. Yeah, my throat chakra was all sorts of jacked up, and it's just like things would get stuck there, and I was always like having strep throat. Like when I was a kid, I always had throat kind of stuff, like swelling. But it's really cool that some of us, like you, are like kind of balancing that out and helping other people, trust their communication, but just giving them an example of like, this is what it looks like to speak freely, and to trust myself enough that I can just say it, and I know that I'm supposed to. And because I don't think people trust it, and so they need that example. Like you're showing people, like,
I think it's so funny because that you say that, because I've had so many friends that start doing this type of work because of, I mean, it's not like just because of me, but it's definitely like I had a role to play with that, to show them that like I truly believe that entrepreneurs are going to actually change the world in so many different capacities, like the way that we give and receive money, the way that we are connecting with what we need, like our self-care, our self-love. Like I really believe that entrepreneurs are changing that paradigm. And so I think once people see that you already have all the gifts that you need, like it's all right there. You can just go into it, and you are enough. You are okay. You're not an imposter. I have to tell that to people all the time. Is like, you're not an imposter. I promise that people need you. People need the gifts that only you have. Like they need to hear the messages just from you. And it's impactful to just watch people, like my friends, the people around me, just kind of step into that too. It's like, I've taught all my friends Reiki pretty much. Like everybody I know is just like, they want this medicine, and because it's so needed. And I just can't, like, all the people in my life, they're just so amazing. They're so impactful. They're so magic. Like everything that they do is like magic, and I see that in them. I see that in everybody, honestly.
Right.
Because it's just everybody has that unique spectrum to share, which is why we're all here, you know? We're all supposed to give something.
Right.
Something. Like a piece of who we are here to embody.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just an example, you know?
Exactly.
Like if it's a small thing, like, and or just showing up, like just being there, just incorporating your energy into that. And then you realize you're like, oh, this is what I'm giving out.
Right.
This is what's surrounding me. Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And I feel
so
like you
cool.
know that you're doing it right because it's usually tied in to your passion and like what you love. And like, so you start doing what you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And then you start, like, for me, like, I have this new project I'm about to start. And when the guy came to me, because I'm going to work with somebody, and when he came to me with it, I was like, this is what I love.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could actually do this for a living.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's like everything I'm obsessed with, right? It's like everything that makes me happy. I'm like, of course I would. Yes, I would love to do this. Like, this is
Like
this
a no-brainer.
is it. Yeah. But I think sometimes we think that we have to do the grind, that we have to work the regular. And I mean, sometimes we have to take regular jobs here and there.
For
That's
sure.
fine. That's humbling. It usually connects you to some random person you probably wouldn't have met. Or
Yeah, I actually keep a part-time job at this place called Tree and Vine, downtown Knoxville. It's amazing. Like, I have had so much magic walk into that store that I can't even begin to explain how, like, I'm just grateful to be there, you
Right.
know? Like, and I've learned so much from the people that run it too, just about business development and everything. And those are tools that I need. Like, for
Right.
right now, I totally need that. And I absolutely love working there. Like, I have no
Yeah.
complaints. It's so crazy. My boss there, she is literally like, she's into past life regression, and
Oh,
she
wow.
knows all of this stuff, and like we just trade magic like all the whenever we work together. Like, I mean, we get work done, but she, like, we just connect on like this soul level. It's
Right.
amazing. And
That's so
I'm like, how would, of course, like, the place that I walk into to get a part-time job just for fun is literally my boss's magic. Like, it's just
Right.
amazing.
It's just like following that calling, even if it doesn't make sense at the time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm applying for this job. I don't know why. Just seems right,
Yeah.
but it ends up always working out because I don't really feel like you can be in the wrong place. Like, you might be unhappy even, but sometimes even in that darkness, that's
important.
what pushes you to that
Yes,
next step. So sometimes
totally.
even the low points are still a part of the path, and
Yeah.
we're always going to be there. So it's not like you're just some like mess up,
Mm-mm.
It's like, no, sometimes like you needed to learn something in the dark that you were going to bring to light, and then that was going to be a part of your gift. I think
Totally.
about like my trauma, like obviously I didn't like it. you know,
Yeah.
but I mean, it got me started like reading self-help books at like 15,
Yes, totally.
Probably wouldn't have been where I'm at if I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
started my journey so young, because I was like, I didn't have a psychologist,
Yeah.
Had to start doing my own work. And then I'm like, oh, there's other people that do this work,
Yeah, and then it's just like, it's so interesting because when I like was coming into the community, the reason why I made the intuition circle is because I didn't see anything like that in the community at the time. Like, I didn't, like, there wasn't like a place that I felt like I could go or was accessible or that I just could find on the internet,
Right.
And so I was like, okay. And then everybody that came to my circle that time, they're like, build it and they will come. Like, that was the biggest
Yes.
message that I got. And I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. And then I just started, like, from that point, I watched as I got to know more people in the community. It was just like the floodgates like opened, and you're like, whoa, there's a ton of people here that like do this work. Like, and there's a ton of people everywhere
Right.
that do it. And just using that medicine, which I find so amazing that we all have this like unique, different form of our own personal medicine.
Yes.
And watching everybody create it in their own way. So amazing.
Right. Yeah. And it's like the medicine comes out of the dark. Because if you don't go through the challenge or the tribulation. Like, you wouldn't learn the medicine that you needed to get out of it. And I feel like that's part of the path, like, that leads us. The journey itself, like, that's the thing. Healing is a journey, and it's the experiences along the way that, like, create your unique talent or whatever. Like,
Totally.
It's where it all comes out of.
Like, when I was younger, if you would have told me that communication was a gift of mine, I would have laughed in your face. Like,
Right.
no question. Because I grew up with teachers and I have learning disabilities. I have dyslexia and ADHD. I was always told my entire life, like, you're never going to be able to communicate the right way. You're never going to be able to, like, go to college. Like, nothing. Like,
Right.
that was never a thing. Like, but, you know, then when I got into all these different communities, they're like, that's why you're here.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's what transmutation is. That's amazing.
Right.
So I got to change that subconscious belief and make it into something that truly is, like, a part of me. So shadow work's amazing.
It is. It's so good.
That was actually, shadow work was the first workshop that I ever did. And I of course, I hit it with shadow work rather than
Right.
like something else. I had to do like the deep topic, and I had like 40 people at this festival at my lecture, and I was so scared.
Right.
Was so terrified because, you know, we're talking about this deep topic, and it was, you know, and I was like 19 when I gave that talk, so it was just amazing to kind of, it was a really big learning experience. It was really scary at the time because I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this many people. I expected like maybe 5.
Right.
Like, and there were so many people, like all the elders of that community too. And I was like, ah.
Right. I feel like as a younger person in this healing community, you know, where a lot of the people are older than me. Like, when an older person, like, looks at me and they see my wisdom.
Totally.
And they, like, respect it. Mm-hmm. And they're, like, asking me questions.
Yes.
I'm like, I can't believe that you believe in me. Like, it means a lot to be a younger person.
Totally.
In the community.
Like, a lot of people don't know how old I am, and they get really confused. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm 23. Right. Like, I'm young. And I'm totally aware that I'm young. Right. But I've had, like, elders from any like different type of community tell me that I'm doing the right thing. I've done sessions for those elders too. Right. And that to me is just, like, amazing. And watching, like, knowing the people that are around me that don't see that as, like, a thing of, like, a great passageway that we can't communicate, or I'm not going to be able to understand something. Right. You know, finding those people that really resonate with that, like, means the world to me. Right. Because I know that I have been on Earth many a time. Exactly.
Like, age is so funny. Like, when people judge someone based on their age, I always kind of giggle because I'm like, you literally don't know how old that person really is.
Yeah. Oh, oh my gosh, this was so funny. So I was talking to my partner's son the other day. We were talking about babies, and he was like, babies are old. Right. And I was like, yes. Exactly. Like, and
they're still tuned in to, like, that previous life sometimes.
Totally. Actually, when I was 7 years old, I started connecting into my past lives. And I was like, Mom, do you remember when I was your mom? And she was like, we talked about it all the time. And so when I got my first regression, I already knew that, like, for sure, but I got to go into it too. Yeah. And it was, and then I told my mom about it, and she's like, that makes so much sense, because we talk about it all the time. And, like, I sometimes in this lifetime will have this weird interaction with my mom where I, like, become, like, a crazy wisdom channel for her, which it's happened since I was, like, 16. And, like, I'll be like, why are you doing these things? And I'll act like a mom to her.
Yes.
It's so funny.
I love that. I love how the relationships, when they carry over like that, are still, like...
It's so interesting.
Yes. So, could you talk a little bit about your coaching program, Rainbow Alchemy?
Yeah. So my Rainbow Alchemy coaching program is really taking off, and I'm so excited about it. So, really, what I'm doing is I'm teaching you all about intuition development. And how that all looks. So, really working on each section. So, imagine like an intuition circle, but like for 13 weeks. And then, if you are so called to, depending on the person, if you're called to do this type of work, then I will coach you through how to make it work for you. We go through integration time. We take field trips to all these different places around, or I just find the places in your area because I've done sessions online with that too. We do regressions together. We go into absolutely everything. We talk about your personal life too. We'll go into all of that. We'll work with like how you can manage things differently, manage stress differently. There's journal prompts like crazy. I love journaling myself, so I always give people a lot of those. And yeah, it's amazing. I'm going to be hiring on an assistant who's actually inside of my coaching program right now. And I'm really excited about it because she has gifts that I don't and I need. And so we're working together. And so I help people develop what they want to go into or what they're already good at, and the regressions really help with that too, because it helps me to understand, not from my perspective, from their perspective, like what you want to go into and dive into and explore and eventually probably make a career out of that. Like taking 13 weeks to do that. I went into a coaching program, and that's the reason why I do it, is because it helped me so much. And I was like, okay, well, working with what I know, my own medicine, I can totally make a coaching program. And yeah, it's been amazing to watch. I teach people Reiki. I'll teach you tarot. I go through all the chakras and what I've channeled from them. A lot of it's channeled information. I'll help people to activate their own personal towers, which is the space where I go to channel. And we just keep going. Like there's no limit. Like I don't like keeping limits on things, but there's no limit to what we go into and what we want to develop. I am a really good researcher. That is something that I teach clients, because a lot of times you'll get a lot of false information. And if you don't know what your discernment feels like, then it's so hard to know if what you're receiving is like good information or not. So I really like to make that a priority. I actually do ahead of their first session is so much fun, because you send me all the information ahead of time, and then I'll go through your etymology of your name. And so I get to look at, and even your last name, even your middle name, and I make it into this beautiful phrase and understanding, so you can know kind of what yours is, because I had somebody do that for me, and it really impacted me. And I was like, this is something, and it's so funny. I've had a lot of coaches or people in my life that no longer do it. And so I always ask people, because I never want to take anything that you feel is like totally yours. And because that's just a personal thing that I feel weird about too. So I always ask them if like, hey, can I use this? Like, is this something you're okay with me using? And they're always like, yeah. And then I'll integrate it and then work with it, which is so amazing. So yeah, the coaching program is been a whole journey. I have 2 current ones. I only take on 2 clients for 3 months, and it's been incredible. We work every week, which is, watching people grow is like my love, is my absolute love, because I get to watch people turn inward and then shine that out so bright. And I've seen it with so many people that I've worked with, and I can't begin to explain how amazing that looks. Like, it's every client that I've ever had, I'm so grateful for, because they've shown me so much about myself too. Because like I said, I'm just the guide. I'm just there to help you come into what you want to be. I'm just there to help and support, and I love that.
Right. I really love it, because I have a lot of healers on the show, and I know a lot of healers, and a lot of them are dealing with the past. and helping people heal from something that's happened, whether this life or the last. But I really think it's cool what you're doing, because yes, there's healing, but there's that past, but you're actually like helping them get to that next step, which is about like, well, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
That you're healed.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going to take this? Like, how are you going to help others with this? Because I think sometimes we go to therapy and we, have a Reiki session or whatever, we're feeling good, but it's like we're kind of in that in between. It's like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And you don't want to just like get back on the grind, you're
no.
You're like, I'm supposed to integrate it somehow, but I don't know how. So it's so cool that you're doing that, and you're really helping them step into their gifts, step into their future,
Totally.
And it's needed.
It's so cool to actually, in my own personal astrology, I don't know astrology very well, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but in one of my houses that's related to work, I actually have the symbol of the phoenix in there. And that's, when I heard that, I didn't really integrate it like completely at the time, but I re-listened to everything that this astrologer told me, and it was amazing. Like, it was so mind-blowing, because I was like, yeah, that's what I do, is like I help people like burn up all the stuff and then make it into something magical and theirs and completely totally them, because that's what transmutation is.
Right.
And I actually have been like I said, I do research all the time, and I've been finding with my research, like just with my clients, is that we all have these different forms of intuition that we embody, which I don't even know all the names yet, but for sure there's one that's the amplifier. And I have done so much research on just asking people, what is, like, how do you interact with your intuition, and how does it like help, like, what does it do, and I'll ask healers this too all the time. And for me, I always get confused, because I'm like, I just do, like, I do all the things, like, kind of similar to what you were saying too. It's just like, I am already like doing my purpose just out in the world,
Right.
just day to day, like going to the grocery store. Oh, I met somebody who like this.
Right. You're just on the path.
Yeah.
You're
totally.
just living your dharma. Like, things are coming to you. You're in flow. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be. And there's still challenges, of course.
Totally.
Like, there's still going to be retrogrades, and there's still going to be heartbreaks and loss. But, it's like you're trusting that you're strong enough, or you have all these gifts that are going to help you in those moments, and then
oh gosh,
you've helped all these people. And you've made these connections. So when you're down and defeated, they're going to be there for you. So you receive too.
Totally. That's so true. I know that I've totally had some like really dark moments where I watched the community help me and support me, and like our Knoxville and surrounding communities are just so strong. Like so strong. And we just have so much to like share with each other. And there's something that I always bring up, is that I don't feel any type of competition.
Right.
And that's such an amazing thing, because I know that like there are people out there that feel that way. It's so funny. I've had people come to me, they're like, hey, I'm gonna practice this, and like, I don't want you to like feel this way. And I'm like, dude, I'm so stoked that you're practicing that.
Right.
Like,
that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Like,
because you want everyone
totally
to be on their path. You want everyone healed. And that's like, that's just who you are, and it's all like about like integrity and all that. You're not just doing it to make money, and you can tell.
No, it's a supportive, equal exchange.
Exactly.
Whatever that exchange is, it's a supportive, equal exchange. Like, that's such a big thing for me. It's like I said, with the entrepreneurs, like, I genuinely believe we're gonna change the world, because we're just gonna start giving to each other. And I think that the Knoxville community is the perfect place for that.
Right.
Like, absolutely the perfect place, because we have such a tight community. All it takes is a meeting. We all just need to come together and have a meeting and talk about all the things.
Right, I know.
We all have so many amazing gifts. Like, we're all here. Yeah. We're all already doing it separately, but joining that like unity together, like the word community is come to unity. And I try to showcase that a lot in my posts. but you're coming into unity with like your fellow person. And I just totally believe that this is totally the place for it, because
Yes.
I can see it like in every situation that comes up. I'm like, yep, this is already happening.
Right.
That's actually a big project that I'm currently working on, is just getting to know the people here and connecting like one-on-one with everybody, because I love working with people's strengths and understanding people's weaknesses and like just being honest about it, you know. That's like, it changes the way that you're around every single person, because I do have a very like business savvy mindset too, so it's an interesting balance when I'm like intuitively doing business.
Right. Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's really cool, like, to do my job. I mean, obviously I don't make any money off of it, but people do like healing things for me sometimes.
Yeah.
And just getting to be in people's energies and having these amazing conversations.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot, you know? So, like, I'm never, like, burnt out from this.
No.
You know? So I'm always receiving, whether it's something tangible or not. But it's really cool to get to be the person that is bringing it together.
Yes, totally.
One by one. And I get to do the one-on-one thing. And everybody that listens to the show really gets a deeper understanding of the person.
Yeah.
Because I think it's kind of like nerve-wracking. Like, if you don't know someone and you're like doing past life stuff and you're crying.
Oh yeah, that's super scary. I totally get that. Like, if I didn't, like, I knew my practitioner really well, and we really connected on all kinds of stuff, and so it was really easy for me to trust her, and I really like to carry that forward too, because I just genuinely and it's so funny, like, sometimes people will come in for sessions and I'm instantly like, yep, we're totally gonna be friends. Like,
right. It's like almost like past life connections or something. You're just
totally.
like, oh, I know you. I remember you.
I'm like, hey, what's up?
It's so cool.
So cool.
I love it. All right, so we're about to wrap up. What's the best way for our listeners to contact you and keep up with future events?
Yeah, so my business name is Thy Harmony, and I am on Instagram and Facebook. That's probably like the best way to reach me. There is a link in my bio, or you can email thyharmonymanifest.com and request a session. And yeah, or you can just find me on Facebook. My name's Mollymae. I'm pretty much the only one. So it's pretty easy to find me. But yeah, I would love to connect with all of you guys all around the globe. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just work with you guys and help you, guide you into this amazing new state of being, because it's so incredibly possible. And you can live this amazing reality with every single step you take.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
for being
you
on
so
the
much.
show and just giving us your time.
Of course. Thank you. It was very easy for me to give because you're amazing. And I'm so excited with what you're creating on this podcast. And I'm so glad that I got to help just with a little piece of it on your session, because it was so amazing to just work with, like, you're not an imposter. It's okay. Just do the thing. You're going to be amazing at it.
Yes. Thank you for believing in me and then just providing me with that opportunity to get to tune into that, you know, knowing that I probably wouldn't have believed. But so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.